"You saved my wife's life," the Apache warrior said, kneeling before the midwife who had delivered his son. "Now, your life is my responsibility. Forever." The widow tried to refuse. She had only done what any healer would do. But 3 months later, when bandits came for her daughter, she understood. Some debts are paid not in silver, but in blood and loyalty. Hello, my dear friend. I am Ricardo Rodriguez, the narrator of Dreams and Destinies. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and tell me which city you're watching from. A big hug and enjoy the story. Arizona Territory, 1883. The town of Mesquite Springs survived on copper mining and cattle ranching, and everyone knew the unwritten rules. Mexicans stayed in their quarter, whites controlled the businesses, and Apaches were to be avoided at all costs. Carmen Reyes, a 38-year-old widow, lived in a small adobe house at the edge of the Mexican quarter with her 12-year-old daughter, Lucia. For 15 years, Carmen had been the town's midwife, the only one within 50 miles who could turn a breech baby, stop hemorrhaging, or coax life from seemingly hopeless situations. She had delivered over 200 babies and only lost 3 mothers in all that time. In an era when childbirth was one of the leading causes of death for women, Carmen's survival rate was nothing short of miraculous. "Mama, why do you always keep the lamp burning by the window?" Lucia asked one evening as they prepared dinner. "Because babies don't choose convenient times to be born," Carmen replied, stirring the pot of beans. "That lamp tells people I'm awake and ready. Someone might need me. Even in the middle of the night. Especially in the middle of the night. That's when the difficult births happen." Lucia had grown up understanding that her mother's work came first. She had learned to sleep through late-night emergencies, to prepare her own breakfast when Carmen was called away at dawn, to explain to her teachers why her mother couldn't attend school events. It was the life of a healer's daughter, lonely sometimes, but filled with the knowledge that her mother saved lives. That particular night, the knock came at 2 a.m. Carmen woke instantly, years of practice training her to respond to that sound. She pulled on a robe and hurried to the door, expecting to find old Rodriguez or young Maria or one of the other familiar faces from town. Instead, she found an Apache warrior. He was tall, perhaps 30 years old, with long black hair that fell past his shoulders and traditional clothing that marked him as Chiricahua. His face was streaked with what Carmen recognized as ceremonial markings, but also with something else, tear tracks, fresh and undisguised. Most remarkable was his posture. He wasn't standing with the proud bearing she'd seen in other Apache men. He was on his knees, his hands pressed together in a gesture of supplication that transcended cultural boundaries. "Please," he said in heavily accented but clear Spanish. "My wife. Baby won't come. She dying. Our medicine woman dead. You only help." Carmen's first instinct was to refuse. Treating Apache patients was dangerous. It could get her ostracized by the Mexican community, arrested by the territorial authorities, or worse. But then she looked into his eyes and saw something that every healer recognizes: desperate, terrified love. "Where is she?" Carmen asked. "I carry." "Not far. Please, you come?" "Lucia," Carmen called over her shoulder, "get my birthing kit." The large one. The warrior's eyes widened with hope so pure that Carmen felt her throat tighten. "You help?" "I'm a midwife," Carmen said simply. "It's what I do." "Now get up off your knees and take me to your wife." The warrior stood, and Carmen noticed he was trembling, not from cold or fear, but from exhaustion. "My name Nantan," he said. "You saved my wife. I owe you everything." "You don't owe me anything," Carmen replied. "Just get me to her quickly." Nantan had brought his wife as close to town as he dared, to a small ravine about a quarter-mile from Carmen's house. The woman, whose name was Helona, lay on a blanket, her face gray with pain and blood loss. Carmen could see immediately that the situation was critical. "How long has she been in labor?" Carmen asked, already examining the woman. "2 days. Baby come wrong. Sideways." Carmen's hands moved expertly, assessing the situation. Transverse lie. The baby was positioned horizontally across the birth canal, making vaginal delivery impossible without intervention. In 1883, this usually meant a death sentence for both mother and child. But Carmen had delivered breech babies, twins, babies in all sorts of impossible positions. She had learned techniques from her mother, from traveling doctors, from medical texts she'd saved money to buy, and had Lucia read aloud to her. "Lucia," she said calmly to her daughter, who had followed with the birthing kit, "I need you to boil water using the fire Nantan made. Then prepare the clean cloths. Can you do that?" Lucia, who had assisted at enough births to know the routine, nodded and got to work. Carmen turned to Nantan. "This is going to be difficult. I need to turn the baby inside the womb. It will hurt her terribly, and there's a chance I could fail. But if I don't try, they will both die. Do you understand?" Nantan looked at his wife, who was barely conscious, then back to Carmen. "You try. You save. I trust you." For the next 3 hours, Carmen worked with a focus and determination that blocked out everything else. The fact that she was treating an Apache, that she could be arrested for this, that she was attempting a procedure that killed most patients who underwent it. Her hands moved inside Halona's body, feeling for the baby's position, gently but firmly pushing, rotating, coaxing. Halona screamed, sounds that Carmen knew would haunt her for weeks, but Nantan held his wife, whispering in Apache, his tears falling on her face. "Almost there," Carmen murmured. "The head is coming around. Just a little more." And then, miraculously, the baby shifted. The head entered the birth canal properly. "Now push!" Carmen commanded. "Nantan, tell her to push." Nantan spoke rapidly in Apache, and Halona, finding strength from somewhere deep within, pushed. The baby emerged in a rush of blood and fluid. A boy, small but with good color, and most importantly, screaming with healthy lungs. Carmen cleared the baby's airways, tied and cut the cord, then wrapped him in a clean cloth and handed him to Nantan, whose hands shook as he took his son. But the work wasn't done. Halona was still bleeding heavily. "Lucia, the shepherd's purse tincture. Now." Carmen worked to deliver the placenta, to massage the uterus, to stop the hemorrhaging that could still kill her patient. She administered the herbal remedy that would help the uterus contract. She packed the birth canal with clean cloth. And finally, after what felt like an eternity but was perhaps 20 minutes, the bleeding slowed to a manageable level. Halona was alive. The baby was alive. Against all odds, both had survived. Carmen sat back on her heels, exhausted, her dress soaked with blood and sweat. She looked at Nantan, who was crying openly now, holding his son against his chest while his other hand gripped his wife's. "They're going to be okay," Carmen said. "She needs rest, lots of fluids, and these herbs 3 times a day for the next week. But they're going to live." Nantan looked at Carmen with an expression she had never seen before, something beyond gratitude, something almost spiritual. He carefully handed the baby to Halona, who was now conscious enough to hold their son. Then he stood and walked to where Carmen sat, and he knelt before her again. "You saved my wife's life," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved my son's life. In my culture, this creates a debt that can never be repaid with silver or horses or land. Your life is now my responsibility, forever." "That's not necessary," Carmen said, uncomfortable with the intensity of his declaration. "I'm a healer." "I did what any healer would do." "No," Nantan said firmly. "Most healers would not come when I knocked. Most would let Apache woman die. You came, you saved. Now I'm your guardian. Wherever you go, whatever danger finds you, I will protect. This is my oath." Carmen looked at Lucia, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't need a guardian. I take care of myself and my daughter just fine. Nantan shook his head. You not understand. This is not choice. This is sacred obligation. I protect you, or I have no honor. Please do not take my honor. Carmen realized this wasn't something she could simply refuse without insulting him deeply. In his culture, this life debt was apparently as binding as a marriage vow. Very well, she said carefully. I accept your protection. But please understand, we live in a town that doesn't welcome Apache presence. You can't just follow me around Mesquite Springs. I stay far enough no one see, but close enough I always see. And that's exactly what he did. The next morning, Carmen woke to find fresh meat hanging from her porch. A deer, expertly field-dressed, more meat than she and Lucia could eat in a month. Mama, where did this come from? Lucia asked. Carmen sighed. From our new Apache guardian. Over the following weeks, gifts kept appearing. Firewood stacked neatly by the side of the house, wild herbs Carmen used in her remedies, freshly gathered. Once, a beautiful blanket woven in traditional Apache patterns left folded on her doorstep. And Nantan himself, always watching from a distance. Carmen would glimpse him at the edge of town when she went to the market. She'd see his silhouette on a nearby hill when she walked home after a late-night delivery. Once, she found him sleeping under a tree near her house after a thunderstorm, apparently unwilling to seek better shelter if it meant leaving his post. Why is that Apache man always watching us, Mama? Lucia asked after the second week. Because I saved his wife and baby, Carmen explained. In his culture, that created a life debt. He believes it's his duty to protect us. Is he dangerous? Carmen thought about Nantan kneeling before her, tears streaming down his face as he held his newborn son. No, mija, I don't think he's dangerous at all. I think he's a man who takes his obligations very seriously. Do we need protection? I don't know, Carmen admitted. I hope not. But 3 months after that midnight birth, Carmen learned exactly why Nantan's protection would matter. It started when Sheriff Miller came to her door. He was a hard man, corrupt and mean, known for taking bribes and looking the other way when powerful people broke the law. Mrs. Reyes, he said without preamble, there's been a complaint filed against you. What kind of complaint? You're accused of practicing medicine without a license. That's illegal in the territory. Carmen felt ice in her veins. I'm a midwife. I've been delivering babies in this town for 15 years. Everyone knows. Everyone knows you deliver Mexican babies, Miller interrupted. But 3 months ago, you were seen treating an Apache woman. That's different. A woman was dying. I helped her. That's what healers do. That's what doctors do. And you're not a doctor. You're just a Mexican midwife who should stick to her own people. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Here's the thing, Mrs. Reyes. I don't actually care who you treat, but there are men in this town who do care, and they've offered me money to make sure you stop practicing altogether. What? Dr. Hammond wants you gone. You're cutting into his business. He's willing to pay good money to see you arrested, your property seized, your daughter sent to an orphanage. Now, I'm a reasonable man. If you were to pay me, say, half of what Hammond's offering, I could lose that complaint. Make it disappear. Carmen understood immediately. This was extortion, plain and simple. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'd better find it. You've got 3 days. Miller tipped his hat mockingly. Good day, Mrs. Reyes. After he left, Carmen sank into a chair, her mind racing. She had saved almost nothing over the years. Most of her patients paid in food or favors, not cash. She had no way to raise the money Miller wanted. Mama, what are we going to do? Lucia asked, her voice small with fear. I don't know, mija. I don't know. That evening, as Carmen sat on her porch trying to figure out a solution, Nantan appeared from the shadows. He walked directly to her, the first time he'd come close to the house in daylight. "I hear you have trouble," he said without preamble. "The lawman. He threatened you." "How do you—" Carmen started, then understood. Of course he'd been listening. That was his job as her guardian. "Yes, but this isn't something you can help with. It's a legal matter." "No," Nantan said. "This is danger. That is what I protect from." "Nantan, you can't just threaten a sheriff. That will only make things worse." "I not threaten. I watch." His eyes were hard. "But if he come back, if he try take you or your daughter, then I do more than watch." The situation escalated faster than Carmen anticipated. On the second night after Miller's visit, 3 men appeared at her door. They weren't wearing badges, but Carmen recognized them as men who worked for the mining company that employed Dr. Hammond. "Mrs. Reyes," the largest one said, "we've been sent to escort you to the territorial jail in Tucson." "On what charges?" "Practicing medicine without a license, endangering public health, aiding hostile Indians, take your pick. This is illegal. Sheriff Miller hasn't even—" "Sheriff Miller works for whoever pays him most. Tonight, that's us. Now, you can come quietly, or we can make this difficult. Your choice." Lucia appeared in the doorway behind Carmen. "Mama?" "Go back inside, mija," Carmen said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Actually," the man said, "the girl comes too. We've got papers saying she's to be placed in the territorial orphanage, mother unfit and all that." "You're not taking my daughter," Carmen said, steel in her voice. The man reached for Lucia. What happened next occurred so fast that Carmen's mind could barely process it. A shadow dropped from the roof, Nantan, moving with lethal grace. His knife was at the man's throat before anyone could react. "Touch the child, you die," Nantan said in perfect cold English. The other 2 men drew their guns, but Nantan moved again, pulling the first man in front of him as a shield. "You shoot, you kill your friend," Nantan observed. "Apache see good and dark. I kill all 3 before you know where I stand." "There's only one of you," the second man said, but his voice wavered. "You sure?" Nantan asked. And as if on cue, 3 more Apache warriors melted out of the darkness surrounding the men. Carmen recognized none of them, but they all had weapons drawn. "My brothers," Nantan explained. "I tell them I protect healer who saved Apache wife. They say, we help protect. Honor for whole tribe." The 3 men realized they were outmatched. The largest one, still with Nantan's knife at his throat, said carefully, "We'll leave. Tell Dr. Hammond the woman's not worth the trouble." "No," Nantan said. "You tell Dr. Hammond if he send men again, they not return. You tell lawman same thing. Healer's under Apache protection now. Anyone harm her, harm daughter, answer to Chiricahua, understand?" The men nodded frantically. Nantan released the first man, and all 3 stumbled away into the darkness. When they were gone, Carmen found herself trembling, not from fear, but from the realization of how close they'd come to disaster. "Mama!" Lucia ran into her arms, crying. Nantan approached slowly, his warriors disappearing back into the night as silently as they had arrived. "You safe now," he said. "Those men not return." "Nantan, you and your brothers could have been killed, or arrested, or—" "I give oath," Nantan said simply. "I protect. This what protect means." Carmen looked at this man who had risked everything, his life, his freedom, his brother's safety, because she had saved his wife. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you. You saved my family. I save yours. This is balance. This is right." He paused. "But problem not finished. Dr. Hammond still want you gone. Lawman still need money. They try again. What can I do? I can't fight the whole town." Nantan was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then, "You come with us. To Apache camp. Safe there. Helona want to thank you anyway. She asked many times when you visit. Leave Mesquite Springs? For small time, until danger pass. Or ... He hesitated. or forever if you choose. Apache camp need healer too. Many babies born, many people sick. You be safe, you be needed, you be honored. Carmen looked at her small adobe house, the town where she'd lived her entire adult life, the practice she'd built over 15 years. Then she looked at Lucia, who was the only thing that truly mattered. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Think one day," Nantan said. "Tomorrow night I come back. You decide then. But please, do not stay if not safe." That night, Carmen and Lucia talked for hours about what to do. The decision felt impossible: stay and fight for their home, or leave everything behind for safety in an Apache camp. "What do you want me, huh?" Carmen finally asked. "This affects you too." Lucia was quiet for a long time. "I want to be wherever you are, Mama. And I want you to be able to help people without being afraid. If that means living with the Apache, then..." She shrugged. "They protected us tonight. They seem like good people. It would be very different from life here. Different isn't always bad." The next morning, Carmen made her decision. But before she could act on it, Dr. Hammond himself appeared at her door. He was a portly man in his 60s, well-dressed and pompous. "Mrs. Reyes," he said without greeting, "I understand my men encountered some difficulties last night. Your men tried to kidnap me and my daughter." Strong words. I'd call it a lawful arrest. But that's beside the point. He smiled coldly. "I'm here to make you an offer. Leave Mesquite Springs voluntarily today and I'll make sure no charges are filed. Stay and I'll make your life a living hell. I have the law, the money, and the connections to do it." "Why?" Carmen demanded. "Why do you hate me so much? I've never done anything to you. You've stolen my patience. Every Mexican woman in this town comes to you instead of me. Every difficult birth goes to you instead of the trained physician. You're an illiterate peasant woman who thinks she can practice medicine, and I won't tolerate it anymore. I've saved lives you would have let die. You've gotten lucky. Eventually, your luck will run out. A mother will die under your care, and then I'll have you arrested for manslaughter." He pulled out a pocket watch, checked it. "It's 9 o'clock. You have until sundown to be gone. If you're still here after dark, my men come back, this time with the territorial marshal and a proper arrest warrant." After he left, Carmen sat down heavily. The decision had been made for her. She and Lucia spent the day packing their most precious possessions: medical supplies, clothes, a few photographs, Lucia's school books. As word spread that they were leaving, people from the Mexican quarter came to say goodbye, many of them crying, begging her to stay. "Who will deliver our babies?" young Maria asked, 7 months pregnant with her first child. "I'll send word through Nantan," Carmen promised. "When your time comes, I'll return." "I promise." That evening, as the sun set, Nantan appeared with a horse and travois for their belongings. "You decide?" he asked. "We're coming with you," Carmen said. "Not forever, necessarily." But for now, Nantan's face broke into a rare smile. "Halona be happy, whole camp be happy, good healer, very important." As they prepared to leave, Sheriff Miller appeared one last time. "I hope you know what you're doing," he said to Carmen. "Going to live with savages. That's no life for a white woman." "I'm not white. I'm Mexican, and I've learned that savage and civilized don't mean what you think they mean. The people who tried to kidnap my daughter, they were civilized. The man who protected us, you call him savage. I'll take the savage over the civilized any day." And with that, Carmen Reyes, midwife of Mesquite Springs, rode into the desert with her daughter and her Apache guardian, leaving behind the only home she'd ever known. The Apache camp was smaller than Carmen had imagined, perhaps 50 people, living in traditional wickiups made of branches and hides. When Nantan brought Carmen and Lucia into the camp, every face turned to stare. But then Halona emerged from one of the wickiups, carrying the baby Carmen had delivered 3 months ago. When she saw Carmen, Her face lit up with joy. She rushed forward and embraced Carmen, a gesture that transcended language and culture. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said in carefully practiced Spanish. "Thank you. Thank you." The baby, now healthy and fat, made cooing sounds. Carmen touched his soft cheek and felt tears in her own eyes. "He's beautiful," she whispered. "His name Bidsi," Halona said, "means strong. You make him strong by saving." That night, the tribal council met with Carmen. Through Nantan's translation, they explained the camp's medicine woman had died the previous winter. Since then, they had lost 2 mothers in childbirth, 3 babies, and several elders to illnesses that might have been treatable. They desperately needed a healer. "We cannot pay in white man's money," the chief said, "but you have home here, you have protection here, you have honor here. This we give freely." Carmen looked at Lucia, who nodded encouragingly. "I accept," Carmen said. "Thank you for welcoming us." The months that followed transformed Carmen's understanding of everything she thought she knew. She learned Apache healing techniques that complemented her midwifery skills. She learned the language, slowly and imperfectly, but enough to communicate. She learned to live without the civilized comforts of town. And she delivered babies, so many babies. But she also treated fevers, set bones, prepared remedies for ailments she'd never encountered before. She became not just the camp's midwife, but its healer. Lucia thrived too. The Apache children taught her to ride like a warrior, to track animals, to move silently through the desert. She learned their language faster than Carmen, with the adaptability of youth. Within 6 months, she was nearly fluent. "Are you happy here?" Carmen asked her one evening. "Happier than I was in Mesquite Springs," Lucia replied honestly. "There, I was just the midwife's daughter. Here, I'm me. They don't care that I'm Mexican. They care that I'm a good friend, that I work hard, that I'm learning their ways." As for Nantan, his role evolved from guardian to friend. He taught Carmen which plants were safe, which trails led to water, how to read the weather in the desert sky.